to ET Brand Equity's very own BE Famous, where we decode influencer backstories in a nutshell. Today we have with us a man who left his glittery corporate job at the age of 39 only to become a content creator and get epic shit done. Please welcome Ankur Warikoo. Hi sir, how are you doing?
Very well. Please don't call me sir. Thank you so much for having me.
What do I call you then?
Ankur, that's it.
Okay,
That's
perfect. First of all, Ankur, I would love to know what is epic shit done?
It's basically the segue to my first book, which was Do Epic Shit.
Right.
And that's my life motto.
Yeah.
And this was a story from 2012. I have two dear friends जो मेरे साथ ही entrepreneur बने around 2009 or so.
हाँ.
And 2012 में जब मेरा birthday था, they gifted me this poster called Do Epic Shit.
Okay.
And it felt like it was a really cool poster, and I put it on my table and I used to stare at it every day. But over time, I realized that that's actually how I would want to live life.
Yeah.
It's about doing, which is action greater than thought. Idea तो सबके दिमाग में होते हैं, सब बोलते हैं अरे ये idea तो मेरे पास 2 साल पहले भी था, but जिसने किया, they are the ones ahead. Epic means something bigger than you, and then shit is that you're having fun while you're doing it. So do things which are bigger than you while having fun. That is what I would want to do. And then once I wrote the first book, the second one was more about मैंने ये तो लोगों को बता दिया कि do epic shit क्या होता है and life कैसे बारे में देखा जाए, सोचा जाए. But I haven't been very prescriptive around कि कौन-कौन से steps हैं to get epic shit done,
Right.
which is why the second book, Get Epic Shit Done.
And how's the response going?
It's been really well. It's a very different book.
Yeah.
The first one was more for people who don't read. तो
Right.
कहीं से भी पेज खोल के पढ़ना शुरू कर सकते थे, and it was
Right.
just enough for them. Very Instagrammable, very Gen Z friendly. The second book is actually closer to a book where you have to read.
Right.
It's still not very involved, but it's written in a teacher and a student format. तो
Yeah.
बहुत अच्छे से उनके दिमाग में बैठ जाता है. At least that's the response that I've got. But it's only been 3 months since we launched.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, when books have to like go out in the market and go viral, then they just do.
They
and
do.
I think that has happened with both of your books about.
They thankfully have. Because I spent so much of time with 20-year-olds, I kind of understand their psyche, and you're of course also in that.
Yeah.
That there's a very big element of social validation attached to whatever you're doing. तो आपने कौन से कपड़े पहने हुए हैं, कौन सा ब्रांड पहना हुआ है, आप कहाँ खाते हैं, क्या खाते हैं, कहाँ वेकेशन करते हैं, कौन सी गाड़ी चलाते हैं, what books do you read, what music do you listen to, what movies do you watch, all of that forms certain persona
Correct.
in the heads of people who you hang out with. So you want to be associated with cool books. So there is like a split audience. एक audience है मेरे उम्र की और मुझसे बड़े उम्र की. You're like, oh, shit बोल दिया, ऐसे कैसे किताब लिख दी, ये नहीं करना चाहिए था, no, हिंदुस्तानी संस्कृति.
Total Punjabi mom relatability.
Totally, exactly. Like, so that vibe is very parent and uncle-like.
Yeah.
And then there is second one, which is more of the rebellious thing ki, अरे नहीं, do epic shit, this is like cool, this is vibing with us, this is exactly us. And that worked.
Awesome, great. But also being an entrepreneur and a board advisor to your company and then a content creator and an author by now, is it too tough to don all hats together?
Actually, not. And I'll say that everything boils down to two things. One, are you doing things that you want to do as against things that you've been asked to do? I don't think I do anything in the day that I've been asked to do. I want to do it. And that's why. Like, I want to have this conversation with you, which is why I'm here. And the second thing then is that if you know what the priorities for your day are, or your week are, or your month are, then you just get it done. And I'm thankfully blessed to be really good with managing my time.
Yeah.
So that really helps. But again, as I said, I think I'm able to manage my time because I only do things that I want to do.
Also, coming to the part where you're on every different social media. So you've been active on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram. And the age of audience everywhere is very different in majority. How do you understand audiences? And second of all, the content creation, how is it different for every platform as of now?
So there's this sheet that we maintain, which is the Brand Warikoo content sheet. उसमें हर platform का target audience, content type, and most importantly, कि Warikoo का persona उस पे क्या होना चाहिए. So for example, on Instagram, my persona is that of a friend, a relatable friend. Needn't be friend at the same age because I'm speaking mostly to 20-year-olds, but it's like this cool uncle that they can confide in and relate to. On Twitter, I'm that of an entrepreneur or a thinker. On LinkedIn, I'm that of a leader. On YouTube, I'm a teacher. On my podcast, I am just somebody who you met on the street. I'm a complete stranger, rambling. hopefully making sense. On my newsletters, I'm very vulnerable. So I'm like this friend that is totally okay saying even the darkest secrets and sharing it because I know that I can trust you. Every platform has a different persona. And what we basically do is we try and see कि उस platform पे कौन-कौन से content media types हैं. Like Instagram पे आप दुनिया जहां की चीजें कर सकते हो. आप stories भी कर सकते हो, आप carousel भी कर सकते हो, आप reels भी कर सकते हो. But what you choose to do is contingent on who are you speaking to, what are you speaking to them about, and what is the persona you want them to. So funny enough, yesterday I get this email from a very smart guy and he says, मैंने reels बनानी शुरू करी है. मैं Instagram में थोड़ा सा crack करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. And a lot of people suggested कि बाहर reels बनाओ. Like चलते चलते पार्क में गाड़ी में whatever the case is. But I've noticed कि आप पिछले 2.5 साल से एक ही जगह पे बैठ के ऑलमोस्ट सेम कपड़े रिपीट कर वही तीन थ्री थिंग्स किए जा रहे हो. How does that work for you? Yeah. And I was like, because after a point of time na, the content has to take over. It can't be about the person, their looks, how they speak, their mic and their ambience and their environment and their गाड़ी and something. क्योंकि वो तो फिर किसी ना किसी पॉइंट पे कोई और बेहतर कर ही देगा. लेकिन आपका कंटेंट अगर जीतना शुरू नहीं होगा, then nothing's going to work. और कंटेंट जिस दिन जीत गया, everything will work. Even if you are, I have created content for donkey's years before people got to know of me with just my phone, a tripod and a simple lav mic for like 5 years. And I didn't need anything, nor did I think it was necessary. It worked. But yeah, I think people ignore that and that's why they become a completely different thing. So every platform, different persona, different content type, different target audience, and you just speak to them in a way that they can hopefully relate to.
I think you definitely need a team for that. It's not a one-man's job.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a really long while by myself, which is why I was mostly focused on LinkedIn. That was my primary platform.
Right.
And when I decided in early 2020 to focus on content a lot more, I built a team. Yeah. It started with 6 people. Now it's 13. And they take care of a lot of things that I have to take care of.
Wow. Coming to content also, I feel, how do you practice what you preach? Do you practice what you preach? First question. And then how do you practice what you preach always?
I'll go the other way around. I only preach what I practice because I don't know of any other way. And I think at my age, that's the only way one should reach out. So for example, if you were to start creating content, you're still early in the professional circle, you're still growing and figuring yourself out, the world out. There's so many experiences that you will go through, so many setbacks, so many highs, so many lows. So for someone like you to create content, you will have to rely on curation, which is मैं दूसरों की ज़िंदगी से कुछ सीख कर उसको अपनी ज़िंदगी में थोड़ा सा अप्लाई कर लोगों को कुछ सिखाने की कोशिश करूँगी. But the foundation will be I have to pick up inspiration from someone else because I don't have enough of mine as yet. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's just
experience
I'm young.
With age. Yeah.
But at 42, which is my age, if people started like, अरे उसने ये बोला था, उसने वो बोला था, उसने वो बोला था, तो they're like, भाई तुमने क्या किया है मेरी लाइफ में? Like 40 साल से तुम क्या कर रहे थे? Yeah. And that is not going to work out. This is very subliminal. This is not something that people express it explicitly, but they feel it within. That from quote unquote elder, more experienced people, they want their experience to come out and teach them something. From younger people, they want the ability to distill information from the world and share information. And that is why it is important that I only preach what I practice. And thankfully, that's what I do. On a daily basis, I'm meeting so many people and I'm reading so much and I'm consuming so much कि हो ही जाता है. और जो मुझे बोलता है ना कि आपको कंटेंट कहाँ से मिलता है, मैं बोलता हूँ यार हमारे देश में कंटेंट की कमी नहीं है. मतलब तुम सड़क पे 15 मिनट खड़े हो जाओगे ना, तुम्हें 1 महीने का कंटेंट मिल जाएगा. कुछ यहाँ चल रहा होगा, कोई कहाँ कुछ गाली दे रहा होगा, कहीं कुछ बेच रहा होगा, कहीं कुछ खरीद रहा होगा, कहीं कुछ जानता मेरा बाप कौन है, जानता ये like
that is more of stand-up comedy content if you're in Delhi. I'm telling you.
It is literally. It is 100% stand-up. Like there is just so much stand-up.
I agree.
But in other words, if you were to just abstract yourself and then figure out ki, oh, this is what he said, why did he say that, this is what she said, why did she say that, then it suddenly starts making a lot more sense. Of course, you won't get fashion content on the streets, but no, you get the point.
Yeah, I understood. Also, coming to the content part, I see you don't do a lot of brand collaborations. You're not totally dependent on them like other creators. How does it work? How do you monetize your content in that sense? And what is your inspiration of content in every sense? Because then in most cases, brands do also give you an idea of content at times.
Sure.
How do you keep your consistency with content in that sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, for the reason you stated, I do not do a lot of brand collaborations because brands, for no fault of theirs, would want to exercise some judgment over the content. कि आप ऐसा बोलिए, ये बोलिए, इस ढंग से बोलिए, ये दिखाइए. And मुझे वो सब नहीं करना है क्योंकि मेरा content authentic होना चाहिए. So whenever I'm speaking to a brand, there are 2 or 3 things that I take care of. One, it has to be a brand that I've personally used myself. So I have to be a user of the brand or whose founder I know really well from the past. So I work with a lot of startups because they would need that kind of visibility and I'm happy to support them because I'm myself an entrepreneur, I'm from the community. तो वो करूँगा या एक brand जिसको मैंने बहुत time से use किया या अगर कुछ नया भी होगा तो I'm really enthralled by that. Number 2, it has to be seamlessly integrated into my content. Otherwise, it's a sponsorship, and I will call that out. It's like ये video X ने sponsor किया है, उनका इस वीडियो से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ इसको sponsor कर रहे हैं ताकि उनका नाम आप तक पहुंच जाए. Like it's almost to that extent, and I will give a certain feature, a certain benefit, a certain spiel, and that'll be it. But if it's an immersion, then it'll be like, oh, मैं personal finance के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ, so I'll integrate say a small case or a Zerodha in it, which are the brands that I work with. अगर मैं learning के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ, I'll integrate a Udemy into it. If I'm talking about opportunities or careers, I'll integrate say a Leverage Edu into it. Because these are the brands that I have long-term relationships with. I will want to endorse them and I will seamlessly integrate that. And third, every platform will have to have that brand relevant. So for example, yesterday I got a brand collab from a very large hardware company, technology, computer company. And they're like, आप हम पे एक YouTube integrated video बना दीजिए हमारे business laptops का. It's like, मैं ना technical गुरुजी नहीं हूँ. मैं ये नहीं हूँ, चलिए शुरू करते हैं, right? मैं वो नहीं हूँ. मैं laptops के बारे में बात ही नहीं करता हूँ. मैं personal finance के बारे में बात करता हूँ. So YouTube is not the platform for that. However, LinkedIn could be, क्योंकि LinkedIn पे मैं बहुत प्रोडक्टिविटी के बारे में बात करता हूँ, अपने काम के बारे में बात करता हूँ, बहुत सारी फोटोग्राफ शेयर करता हूँ जहाँ मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. So that could happen. If they don't see it, then I wouldn't work with them. If they see it, then I will. And having multiple platforms really helps because then I can literally propose something that works for them. At the same time, it gives me the flexibility to say no to a lot and to say yes to a very few. I say yes to very, very few brands. And that's why I really like working with them because then I'll put everything that is needed to make it work. Content by itself is scarce. It's limited. Like आपका monetization का potential is dependent on that content piece. तो अगर आपने एक ही brand के साथ काम किया वो तो आपको करोड़ों रुपए सालों तक नहीं देते रहेंगे ना for everything that you do. So you have to then maximize out and then you start losing out. Which is why I often say this कि creator के लिए it's extremely important that they create multiple income streams so that they're not dependent on just brand collaborations for their existence or survival. It is critical for that.
Awesome. Makes sense. And to understand, I see that today people at the age of 16 also are creating content and people at the age of 65, 70 are also creating content. And not to kid you, but both the age groups get the same amount of engagement, the same amount of followers, and rather they're competing with each other. It's that kind of a market. So what do you think? The understanding of content and audience comes with age or it just spill around everywhere?
I think they also speak to very different audiences and that's why there is space for all and they needn't compete while in their head they may be competing. A 16-year-old will find it really, really hard to speak to a 40-year-old and a 40-year-old will find it really hard to speak to a 20-year-old. Very few people are able to cross that, but if they are, then that expands the market, but it doesn't necessarily make them compete with someone else. Right. So the 16-year-old is speaking to their generation and they're speaking in that vibe, they're speaking in that color, they're speaking in that tonality, while the 65-year-old may be teaching about, I don't know, spirituality, religion, yoga, health, maybe finance or retirement and blah, blah, blah. So very, very different audience and has this own, in the sense, niche. Yeah. And what we are blessed with is that we are a very big country and there are enough people in every segment while the youth is the biggest segment. But ऐसा नहीं है कि हमारे 40 प्लस या 50 प्लस जनता कम है, लाइक वो भी इतने करोड़ों में है कि अगर उनके लिए भी आप हाई क्वालिटी कंटेंट बनाएंगे तो आपकी मशीन चलती रहेगी, आपकी गाड़ी चलती रहेगी, कुछ नहीं होगा.
Definitely.
And that then makes it just a nice place to be.
Awesome. And you said you also do podcasts, and of course we know you write as well, and we know you do videos as well. So when it comes to Indian audience, you have majority of Indian audience, I believe. What is the difference in terms of how audiences perceive different kind of content? So audio versus video, what is the status right now in India about that?
Funny enough, I was speaking to somebody this morning itself on that. I believe video is going to be the dominant, because it already is and will be, because we are a very visually engaging culture. हमें रंग चाहिए, नाच चाहिए, गाना चाहिए, like हमारे sad songs में भी हम नाचते हैं, तो there's a very different vibe to our culture. But the reason why audio is booming is largely because of regional. What is happening is there are very high quality creators that either don't want to come on a video, or don't have the confidence to come on a video, or don't feel that they should invest in that significant infrastructure, camera, lights, action, ये सब. Their voice is itself to narrate or share a story. And if they're doing it in their language, whether it's Hindi, whether it's Marathi, Bengali, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, whatever the case is, there is a massive audience waiting for that. And that is what is spiking. So audio mein regional is exploding, and it is exploding like crazy. Video mein Hindi still remains dominant, English still remains a fairly big percentage, and of course regional is also there always. But that I see is the big difference. The second one, when I speak to most podcast agencies in general, is the genre is also very interesting. Podcast mein, for example, horror is a big segment.
Yes, I myself listen.
I don't do well with horror at all. Like I can't even begin to tell you how scared I get.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's like वो एक रूह है, एक आत्मा है जो तुमसे बात करे. Anyway, whatever. The point is horror.
We can go deeper in this.
No,
I don't mind.
I don't want to. Horror is just such a big segment, and वो रात को 9 बजे शुरू होता है. And फिर लोग इसमें करते हैं because that's what gives them the high, that's their excitement, that's their vibe. So it's so interesting because horror on video requires insane amount of effort. And imagine you can replicate that experience to a great degree in audio with 1/10 the effort. And that's why.
Awesome. Just the last question. What is Ankur Warikoo doing in the next few years? What epic shit is he gonna do?
Arey, you know, this is one of my favorite questions because I don't have an answer to that. And I've often said it, if somebody were to ask me, hey, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, but I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. The reason I've gotten to this point is not because I planned for it. It's because I just set a process and I committed myself to that process and I showed up every day. Because I feel that the biggest reason creators fail is not because they run out of ideas. It's not because the market is small. It's not because they can't make money and so on. It is only and only inconsistency. Just that. So many people will start and then fizzle out. Because consistent ही नहीं है. It's like going to the gym. 1st January हुआ, चलो gym, you know, सब. And then first week, 1st Feb, 1st March, सब खत्म हो चुका है.
One advice you would like to give to budding content creators?
It's the same thing. Be consistent. Forget everything else. Forget likes, forget followers, forget comments, forget engagement. If you can build a rhythm that you are consistent, you will be surprised at how that will compound to give you every vanity and output metric that you would care about. You just have to be in the game for long enough. I remember very clearly, COVID started. हर एक इंसान क्रिएट करना शुरू कर रहा था. हर एक इंसान क्रिएटर बन चुका था. कोई कुछ कर रहा है, कोई कुछ कर रहा है, कोई कुछ कर रहा है. And I tweeted about it as like, it doesn't matter who's creating now. What will matter is who will keep creating content even when this is over. And that's true. That is the main thing about content creation. For that matter, anything. So my only advice to creators is just stay consistent. Just stay in it.
Awesome. That's a good wrap to the show. Thank you so much for coming on with us at BE Famous. We will be launching an episode every Thursdays at 5. Please stay tuned. Thank you.